Hi everyone, we are back. Today's video is about Algebra 1 solving equations with the variable on each side. And then you got to check your solution. Let's dive right into it. My name is Ryan. This is Math with RG. And study tip for today is when you check your work efficiently, I encourage you to say it out loud as you're writing it down. And then once you're done, say it out loud again and ask yourself, does this make sense? Okay, your ears will hear a mistake, if there is one, faster than your eyes. Your ears, of course, will also hear if it's correct faster than your eyes as well. All right, here we go. Let's dive into it. So we got a variable on each side. Now, the goal, right, is to solve for the variable, right? Isolate the variable. Well, we have 2h. This is number 38. We have 2h minus 14 equals negative 5h. Okay. So our goal is to get the variables together, right? Because they're like terms. So we could bring the 5h onto the other side. We also could bring the 2h onto the other side. So since if I move the 5h to the other side, it would make that side 0, I'm just not going to do that. You could, but I'm not going to. So I'm going to do the opposite and move the 2h to the other side. So we have a positive 2h. So all you got to do is do the opposite of positive, which is negative. So minus 2h. And then minus 2h, right? We have to balance it out, right? This is algebra. Left side of the equal sign and the right side of the equal sign. Okay, so that cancels out. We have negative 14 equals, well, if I have a negative 5 and a negative 2, that means I borrowed $5 because it's negative, and then I borrowed $2 because it's also negative. So that means I borrowed $7. And then, of course, it's an H. All right, so here we go. By the way, this is a teamwork process, okay? It's you and I. You can do this. I believe in you. So we have negative H times, see, we all make mistakes. We have negative 7 times H. Okay. Now, remember, we had the variable on both sides. I just got the variables together because they're like terms. I was able to combine them. So now I just have to do the opposite. What's happening to the variable? It's being multiplied by negative 7. So we do the opposite of that, which would be divide by negative 7. We balance it out on both sides. Negative 7 divided by negative 7 is 1. So now the H is by itself. And we have a negative divided by a negative. That's going to be a positive. Negative 14 divided by negative 7 is positive 2. That is our solution. They asked us to check it. Let's do a quick check. So we have 2 times 2 minus 14, whoops, is equal to negative 5 times 2. That's 4, right? 2 times 2 is 4. Minus 14, that equals negative 10. 4 minus 14 is negative 10, right? Because if I have $4, but I want to spend $14, I'm going to have to borrow $10. So that's negative 10, right? If I borrow it, I'm in debt. Negative 10 equals negative 10. That checks out. All right, everybody. We're on to the next one. So we have number 40, x minus 3, all of that divided by 4 equals x divided by 2. Okay, now this is what we call in math a proportion. This is a ratio that equals another ratio, or a fraction that equals another fraction. If you've seen some of my other videos, you know that when I talk about fractions, I always love to say this phrase: all fractions are division problems. So we have x minus 3 divided by 4 That's our first fraction, which is also a ratio. And that's equal to x divided by 2. That's our second fraction, which is also a ratio. A proportion is when a ratio equals another ratio. How do you solve it? You cross multiply. So we're going to go all of this times this. And then we're going to go the x times the 4. All right, let's do this. We have x minus 3 times 2. I'm going to write it like this. 2 with a parenthesis x minus 3 is equal to the 4 times the x. So that's the 4 times the x. So then we have 2 times x minus 3, right? So it's 2 times the quantity of x minus 3. So I have to distribute to each thing. So I'm going to go 2 times x, then I'm going to go 2 times negative 3. All right, we got our 2 times x. That is 2x. And then our 2 times negative 3, negative 6 equals 4x. Well, look at that. We're back to variable on each side. So again, I have to combine the variables, right? They're like terms, the x and the x. So we have 2x and a 4x. So we are going to do the opposite. We have a positive 2x, so we subtract the 2x. Again, on both sides. You're going to hear me repeat things all the time. That's because I want it to instill in your mind how we do things. And I highly encourage you to repeat it back. So say, okay, in algebra, we balance. Whatever we do to one side of the equal sign, we do to the other side of the equal sign. Just keep saying it out loud as you're writing it down, and I promise you, you will improve. So we have negative 6 equals 4x minus 2x. I want you to think about when I say the phrase 4x, that literally means I have 4 x's, as in like if I had physical objects, right? Like physical x's, I'd have 4 of them. I'm taking away 2 of them. So I'm just left with 2 x's. 2x means 2 times x. I have to do the opposite of that now to get the x by itself, right? To isolate it. So we do the opposite. What's the opposite of multiplication? That is division. Divide by 2, divide by 2. We get negative 6 divided by 2, that's negative 3 equals our x. And we box it up. And then if we are to check our solution, I'm just going to say this one out loud. We have negative 3 minus 3, right? So that's negative 6. And then we have negative 3 over 2. You know what? I can squeeze it in here. So we have negative 6 over 4, and that's equal to negative 3 over 2. Are those two fractions equal? Well, yes, they are. How do I know this? Because if I look at the negative 6 and the 4, I can divide each of those by 2. What is negative 6 divided by 2? Well, that is your negative 3. What is 4 divided by 2? Well, that is your 2. I could also go the other way. Negative 3 over 2. Negative 3 times 2 is negative 6, and 2 times 2 is 4. So if I take a fraction and I either divide or multiply by the same number on the top and the bottom to give me another fraction, that is an equivalent fraction. All right? So that means that I know we got the right answer. All right, moving on. We are diving into 42. So we have distributive property. We have 3 times the quantity of p plus 4, right? Or 3 times the sum of p plus 4, the sum, right? So in the parentheses, there's a p plus 4. So we're going to rock this out by distributing 3 times p and 3 times 4. 3 times p is 3p. 3 times 4 is 12. So plus 12 equals 33. All right, here we go. 3p plus 12 equals 33. We got to subtract the 12, right? We have to do the opposite of what's happening. So we got minus 12 on both sides. And we get 3p equals 21. Then we do the opposite again. So 3 times p divided by 3, divided by 3, p equals 7. Okay, let's check our work. What is 7 plus 4, right? Because if p equals 7, plug it in, 7 plus 4, that's 11. 3 times 11 is 33. All right, we are looking really good, everybody. So, we got 44. Let's rock and roll. So, we have distributive property now on both sides. So let's do this. Boom, 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 and another boom. So we've got 12w, right? 4 times 3w, that's 12w. Minus, because we have 4 times negative 2, so that's negative 8, equals 8 times 2w, that's 16w, and then 8 times 3, that is 24. Okay, so now that we have 12w minus 8 equals 16w plus 24, we have to combine like terms, and they're not on the same side yet. So we have to get the w's on one side and then just the numbers on the other side. So we're going to end up with something being negative. That's fine. So why don't we start by doing the opposite of 12w, which is subtracting 12w on both sides. That cancels out. We get negative 8 equals, we have 16w minus 12w, that's 4w plus 24. Okay, so now we're going to do the opposite again, right? We have a positive 24, so we just subtract the 24 on both sides. That cancels out. If I borrowed $8, then I borrow $24. How much money did I borrow in total? That is $32. So if I borrowed it, that's negative, equals our 4w. So now we're back to doing the opposite on both sides again. 4 times w, that is dividing by 4 now, because that's the opposite of multiplication. Divide by 4 over here. We get negative 32 divided by 4, and that is, negative 8 equals w. All right, so they want us to check our work. Let's do that real quick. So we have 4 times 3, but now instead of 3w, I know what w is, it's negative 8, so I'm going to put another little bracket here. Okay, and then minus 2 equals 8 times 2 bracket negative 8 plus 3. Okay, we made it. All right. So we got to go inside out when you're dealing with parentheses and you know all of the numbers, right? There's just no variables. So we got to work inside out. So that looks like this. What is 3 times negative 8? Right? That is negative 24 minus 2. Negative 24 minus 2 is negative 26. Then on this side, we have 8 times 2 times negative 8 is negative 16 plus 3. So then we have 4 times negative 26. That is going to be negative, well, if we did 4 times 25, that would be 100. but then there's still 4 left over because it's really 26, right? So 25 plus 1 is 26, and I'm doing that 4 times, so that means I'm missing 4 ones. So it's really negative 104 equals, this is 8 times negative 13. So we have negative 104 equals 8 times negative 13. That's going to be a negative. 13 is really 10 and 3. 8 times 10 is 80. 3 times 8 is 24. 80 plus 24 is 104. So we did it, everybody. It works. All right. Okay, so we're jumping into the last problem. This is a word problem. Let's rock and roll. So we got a travel problem. Mr. Jones drove 480 miles to a business meeting. That's a long drive for a business meeting. This is obviously before Zoom or FaceTime. Anyway, his travel time to the meeting was 8 hours. And from the meeting was 7.5 hours. So again, his travel time there took him 8 hours. His travel time on the way back, there was a little less traffic, took him 7.5 hours. Find his rate of travel for each leg of the trip. And then it says write an equation and solve. Well, it looks like we're actually going to need 2 equations. So remember, we're going the same distance each way, right? 480 miles on the way there, and then he turns around and comes back. So it's the same distance. So we have this formula of distance equals rate times time. Distance equals rate times time. So we have our distance, 480 miles. We don't know the rate, but we know the time was 8 hours. I'm just changing the order 8R. All right, but then the other equation, again, is the same distance, 480, equals, but this time the this time the time was 7.5, and the rate we don't know. Okay, so then all we have to do is solve each one. So we're dividing by 8 on both sides. 480 divided by 8. Well, 48 divided by 8 is 6, and then we just add another 0. So we know that his rate, he was going 60 miles per hour for his rate on the way there. So that's our first answer, right? We call it rate number 1. All right, and then this one, we're dividing by 7.5 on both sides. That's going to be a little more difficult, so why don't we bust out the good old-fashioned long division. So we have 7.5 going into 480. So when you're working with decimals, it's much easier to just move the decimal over so that there's no more decimal for the divisor, so the 7.5. So if I move it over one place, oops, it just becomes 75. So then I have to do the same thing for the 480 because we have to balance it, right? So I have to move it over one place, which means I just add another 0. Okay, so now we're doing 75 into 48, but that doesn't work because 75 is bigger than 48, so we got to do 75 into 480. We'll start there. So let's go 75 plus 75, that's 150. And then we do another 150, that's 300. And then we do another 150, that's 450. So I know that it's going to go 6 times to start off. So again, we have 450, right, for 6 times. By the way, 6 times 70 is 420. 6 times 5 is 30. 420 plus 30 is your 450. So we subtract and we get 30, and then we bring down the extra 0. Well, look at that. 75 into 300, 75, 150, 225, 300. It goes perfectly. So we now know that his rate number 2, right, on the way back, 64 miles per hour. And that makes sense because he got there in a faster time, which means he's driving faster on average. All right, we did it, everybody.
Great job on finishing today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, tell your friends and family. And if you want to dive deeper into chapter test work, you can check out my Skool platform, skool.com. The link will be in the bio below. And if you want more information on one-on-one tutoring, you can check out my website, rgtutors.com. Thank you again, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye for now.